Finding a job in 2025 feels like running a marathon without having prepared for it. Hi, my name is Sara. I'm a junior architect at an office in Poland. I studied in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and Stockholm, Sweden. Right after I graduated, I was going through it because turns out it's not easy to find a job. I somehow thought that after my master's, I would just receive a job on a golden platter. I thought I'm just gonna get it in the bag so quickly. I am gonna join the workforce. Well, I was wrong, okay? And honestly, treat this video as you will. This is definitely not a tutorial, but definitely a reflection on what I did to get a job in 2025, because it is rough out here. It is rough. Okay, so it's 2024. I had just graduated my master's in May, and just starting off with the summer, I actually was able to secure 2 internships. So actually, my story begins before I actually graduated. Even though I was writing my master's thesis, I was finishing up my project to end my education, I was already stressed about the situation of the market, especially for architects. So I started applying when I was still doing my master's, and I was applying for internships, full-time positions, junior positions, assistant positions. I was applying for everything. And so I was just like spreading all my applications thin and just trying to get anything. But now, a couple months later, I'm actually working as a full-time architectural assistant in Wrocław for a London office, and I am more than happy in the position I am today. So, how did I do it? Okay, first of all, I set up a tracker. If you're applying for jobs, you most likely already are doing this, but it's honestly such a simple thing and yet revolutionary. I set up a Notion spread where I had the name of the office, when I applied, what was the role, a link to the website of the office, and any additional notes, whether that was a deadline or a topic that I was talking about in my application or any sort of like additional details. Now, the reason those trackers are super important is because then you can actually see what is most likely not going to work out, which offices are not responding to you, which ones have responded, and actually, the process moving forward. So you can keep track of all of this. And bear in mind, if it's your first job, it's more than likely that a lot of these are going to turn red, as in getting rejected. And I feel like rejection is a good thing if you just have the right mindset, because how I saw it and how it really was the only thing that kept me going is that with every rejection, I was getting closer and closer to my job that I'm going to receive. So the job offer that actually arrived was meant to be. I am fully convinced by that. So having a tracker is my number one. It was honestly the best decision I made from the start, because I just knew where I was at. I knew how many applications I sent, and this is the thing. I sent 150 applications, if not more. And I'm not even exaggerating, that list was long, okay? So it took quite a while before I got an actual job. So when I was applying in my master's, I was applying for lots of different things. I was applying for social media stuff as well, just because I had a lot of experience in that. So, it wasn't that easy. What finally happened is that I got an internship at my university as like a research assistant. So I was doing some article writing and I was helping out in the lab. So that was really fun. So I was getting a lot of experience in architecture, but from the research side of things. And I'm super grateful for that. And also I got an internship after that in an architectural office. And I'm 100% sure that the fact that I got an internship and I was already doing something within the industry got me places. There's a kind of thin line between being picky and doing the right thing in like your choices of picking opportunities. So in my case, I saw the internships as a stepping stone, and maybe not the ideal situation to start an internship after your master's instead of a full-time job. I mean, it was still full-time, but it was an internship position, if you know what I mean. So I feel like, to me, I had the perspective of this is a temporary position that's going to get me to more experience and going to help me with my applications later on. So I would recommend just having a real honest chat with yourself, whether you can afford to be picky in the situation you're in. The second thing I did was I took LinkedIn so serious. And honestly, I'm grateful for that, because I literally got my job right now through a LinkedIn announcement. Like, the company that I work for now announced on LinkedIn that they're looking for an architectural assistant in a Polish office. If I didn't have LinkedIn, and if I wasn't just like looking out for those opportunities on there, I wouldn't be working at this company right now. I took LinkedIn so serious. I like filled in all of the information I could on my profile. I started posting, and people are so scared of posting on LinkedIn, but to me it's like it's the easiest thing, because it's all professional network. If you post something that's relevant to your industry, if it's relevant to your journey, you can even post about what you're doing at the moment, what projects you are doing, or you can look back and have a look at what you were doing in your portfolio, share your portfolio work. There's infinite amount of things that you can post about, and I don't think there should be any sort of mental block against it, which is easier said than done. But it can give you so many opportunities, and you'll get your name out there. And I think sometimes it's about people knowing about you. The next thing I did was also set up an online portfolio. So I basically used one of those free like website building services, and I literally just set up a website where I had my CV, my portfolio work of my architecture designs, as well as some contact information and like a general story outline of what I do and who I am as a person. And I think that was super valuable, because no matter whether I was sending out applications or reaching out on LinkedIn to someone or sending an email, it was one of the most accessible things for people to have a look at my work and my skills and value in the architectural realm. So I recommend having some sort of easy access to viewing you as like a person that is skillful and valuable to a company. So I think developing an online sort of presence, but in a professional setting, whether that is LinkedIn or a website, and really getting your name out there is, I think, pretty important. Now, did the next thing get me a job? No. But do I think it was super beneficial? Yes. And the thing I'm talking about is I attended quite a lot of industry events. I attended so many architecture events, whether that was gallery openings, seasonal holiday events. I attended conference slash like expo events, and I met so many people. I learned so much as well from the lectures, from the people that were surrounding me, and honestly, it was just great. And even though I didn't get a job out of it, I felt like I was more connected to what was going on currently in the industry. I was more connected with the people that are around me. Also, a lot of people related to my situation. They were explaining their story to getting a job. They were explaining their story to getting to the architect or senior architect that they were. So I think attending company events, international events, whether that is within your industry or not, is gonna give you so many contacts. And that's kind of hand in hand with the next thing. This is definitely not mandatory. I made many business cards. It's a little extra, but it was super, super convenient, because as I was chatting with someone and we were just, splitting ways, I could just hand over my card, and more often than not, people would accept them. And rather, I don't think there was any time that someone said no to a business card. I think everyone's kind of curious with something physical. So I literally passed on these cards and I gave them away at all these different events. And a lot of people just added me on LinkedIn after that, which was also kind of a win, because the more your network grows, the more chance that someone that is actually in need of the role that you're after will see you. Another thing that I did was doubt myself. The amount of days where I was like, what am I doing? Why am I not getting a job? What is happening? I don't know where I'm going, was real. Like, it was so real. So honestly, there's a lot of videos out there. They're like, oh, you can do this, this, and this, and you'll get a job. Sometimes it is more than you can control. And sometimes the market really sucks. And sometimes people are just not looking for the specific role that you're after. And it's not your fault. And it's so stressful. It's literally so stressful. I don't understand how looking for a job as a brand new graduate is so like mentally draining. It's crazy. And another thing is that what I did is I felt guilty for rejecting offers that didn't feel right. Like, I couldn't even explain it. Everything on paper was fine, but there was something off. Something just didn't feel right, and I rejected them. And right after, I was overthinking everything. But you have to sometimes really trust your intuition, whether you feel like the person that is interviewing you isn't gonna be someone you can really work with, or if you feel like their mission isn't aligning, or maybe the company's projects aren't really something that you could imagine yourself doing even for a short while. So sometimes it's hard, but it's really up to you, and you are in the power of deciding whether or not to say yes or no. And no is also a valid response, because sometimes you would be surprised how things work out. As I said, sometimes rejection, sometimes the kind of unexpected things are what were meant to happen. Another thing that I did is I moved back to my parents' house. Because right after graduating and doing my 2 internships, I was looking again for a full-time job, for an architectural position, a junior position. And for about, I want to say, 3 weeks, nothing was happening. And so I moved back to my parents' house to save money, to, spend some quality time with them, but also to just recoup. And if you have, of course, this is a privileged position to be in, to have a safe space to come back to. But although it's not comfortable, sometimes moving back to your parents is the right thing to do. And so I wanted to just say that, because I feel a lot of people feel the pressure of, always doing the right thing. And maybe it feels like a step back, which for me it definitely did, moving back from living independently abroad to moving back to my parents' place. It felt like a step back, but now looking back, I should have even stressed less than I did. Because if I had that opportunity to move back home and spend time with my family and kind of reconnect with who I am as a person and what I wanted to be doing in the future, I wish I had that mindset at the time, but I was just too stressed and too overwhelmed by the whole situation to appreciate it, really. But yeah, that's one thing that I did, and hey, I ended up having a job and moving out again. But hey, like a couple weeks after I moved, I'm not even kidding, I think it was less than a month, I had gotten a job offer and I was moving across the country again. So everything happens for a reason, and it's not something you want to hear when you're unemployed. It is what it is. One more thing that I did was I asked for jobs. And you might be saying, like, Sarah, what do you mean? Applying for jobs is literally asking for jobs. What are you talking about? But what I mean is I would literally send messages to my professors, to my network, to people that I haven't spoken to in a while but I know are in the industry. I asked around about jobs, and I think there should be no shame, because you're at the bottom of the food chain when you're just starting out as a graduate, and there should be absolutely no overthinking about asking for help or references or access to information. So that is one thing that I did. And again, did it end up getting me a job? In this situation, no. But what I realized is people will actually reach out for you, and they will check, and they will make sure that they're not missing on something that maybe will apply to me. So I would recommend that if you're still stuck in finding a job in your industry, is think about what access do you have to people that are in the positions that you would like to work in, and honestly send that message or call them up, or even just show up to that event and ask around, because you never know who knows who and who's looking for someone. So I recommend that. So those are the few things that I did during my unemployment after finishing my master's degree, and what made me end up in the office that I am. And I wouldn't be more grateful because I ended up working in an office that is international, that I feel comfortable working in, that I feel like I'm growing. So it was, it was rough, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that it's easier said than done, and people's situations vary, and application processes are complex, long, annoying, but just stay strong. Stay strong. I don't want to sound like a motivational coach because this is not my role, but I know that it's difficult, and I was really emotionally so tired after applying to hundreds of positions, thinking that I have the qualifications that they need and yet facing rejection. But one more thing that I would like to mention, maybe this is something to think about. If you've recently graduated, I actually started applying only in Sweden, in the place that I studied, and it was just going nowhere. But then I switched routes to applying outside of Sweden, and suddenly offers and interviews were starting to take place. So sometimes, if you have the bravery and the opportunity, of course, again, people's situations are different, but if you have the chance, maybe apply elsewhere. If you are able to work in other European countries, if you're from Europe, or if you can maybe move states in the US or something, try and reach out. Take that risk, because you never know what will happen, and maybe it's going to be the best change and the best opportunity of a lifetime, and you won't even know it. And sometimes it is easier to find a job elsewhere than where you're applying to initially. So that's just food for thought. You do whatever you want to do with this information. You have complete control over what your decision making is. So I just wish you good luck if you're in this position of looking for jobs or in between jobs. I wish you perseverance, and it is a difficult thing to go through, but when you actually end up getting that job, you'll be very grateful for all the effort you've put in. So maybe at least one of these tips will be helpful. I hope you found this video interesting at least, and let me know what your journey was with applying for jobs and how's it going, because I know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.